Boys, welcome back to Today in Combat. I'm Bradley Gleason, and we've got another one for you. UFC London coming at you. We got Leon versus Sean Brady, Carlos Oberg, Jan Blachowicz, and a host of other fights. We're going to get into that on the front half of the show, but I also want to talk about Ilia Topuria because there's been some things. There's been some movement. No fight announced yet, of course, but we've got the likes of Islam's team saying that he doesn't want to fight Ilia. We've got Charles saying he's not fighting Ilia. We got Ilia saying he's not going to fight Arman. So kind of a mess up at 155. We're going to try to parse through that and see what's real and what's fake. And then we're also going to talk about Alex Pereira. I just had this thought maybe a minute before I turned the camera on. Is there a chance we only get one more Alex Pereira fight? Is that a thing? Or is that just in my mind? You know, a Magomed rematch if he loses, or possibly heavyweight. Either Tom Aspinall or John Jones, presumably whoever wins. Then what? So we're going to talk about that a little bit on the back end. Again, I just thought of that. So I could be dead wrong, and I'm going to really stream of thought that on the back end. We're going to do a little thought, what do they call that? A thought experiment on that. But let's start with UFC London. I apologize if I'm a little bit quiet. Again, I'm in the hotel in Massachusetts. Feel a little weird. You know what we got to start with, though. We got to get a Rogue Wintergreen in here. 2 of them to be exact, 6 mils. And let me pick a bone real quick off the top. Did you know, I think it's New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, they don't sell flavored nicotine, and could be more. I don't know. I didn't really do the research, but those 3 places for sure, because I checked, dog. New York, Massachusetts, and not Connecticut. Connecticut's the real OG. New York, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. All 3 places don't sell flavored nicotine pouches. Only the tobacco flavored, which is all right. And then they have like base flavor, which is really no flavor. Just a tidbit for the fellas. If you're coming to this area, I mean, grab yourself a 5-pack, because the worst case scenario, if you're an addict like me, is showing up to a gas. I went to like 4 gas stations. Like, why does nobody have flavored nicotine? You know, and rogues are a little bit harder to find, so it's always something where I'm like, oh, this gas station just doesn't have rogues. Kept going. I was like, fuck, Googled it. Connecticut, closest place, drove 55 minutes, don't give a shit. I'm getting my fix, and I'm getting wintergreen, rogue style, 5-pack, we're back in business. But let's talk about UFC London, because that's what's happening. Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Start with the odds. Let's start with the odds of this fight. I think it's a very competitive fight. I think it's an interesting matchup. I think Sean Brady is streaking. Only loss he's had in the UFC is to Belal Muhammad. His last handful of fights, sub Kevin Gastelum, looked like a terror. And then he went out in 50-45 Gilbert Burns, which is not easy to do. So a lot of respect to Sean Brady. I think he's kind of the forgotten soldier in this welterweight division, because he doesn't have maybe the most exciting style, or at least he hasn't to this point really had those monumental, like, holy shit moments, like a guy like who else? I mean, obviously Carlos Prates, even Michael Morales, Joaquin Buckley, Kobe Covington, Ian Gary Shavkat, you know, their fight together. Jack Della Maddalena knocks out Gilbert Burns. He hasn't had that big wow, but he's a motherfucker to deal with, obviously. To 50-45 Gilbert is very impressive. And then you got Leon Edwards coming off of his title loss to Belal Muhammad. And, you know, I think it was the last time they were in England. Like a 5 a.m. walkout time was weird, but, you know, fair and square, lost to the champ. And, you know, has fought a lot of wrestlers. This has kind of been Leon's bread and butter for the last, feels like 4 fights, you know, 2 against Kamaru, 1 against Colby, and then Belal. I mean, dude does not get a break. He had Jack Della Maddalena. He was going to be in a strike fest, and then gets the task of Sean Brady. So, I mean, if you're Leon Edwards, you got to be like, God damn it. But odds here, we're looking at Leon Edwards plus 130, Sean Brady minus 155. I get it. I get it 100%. I think if you just base it off of Leon's last performance, you're like, oh, he's got another wrestler coming at him. You know, bad matchup, which is always the standpoint for every striker in the UFC facing a primary wrestler, is bad matchup. But this is the same guy that fended off Kamaru Usman, fended off Colby Covington. Like, Leon has been doing this. And even in the last Colby fight, actually took to the wrestling on Colby Covington, actually took Kamaru Usman down in their second fight. Short notice matchup, that's the only thing I really kind of worry about for this. And Leon is like, he was training for a striker. And Sean Brady, regardless of who the opponent is always going to try to, force his will. It's the same with Leon, but if you're preparing for a striker, you finally get a striker, feels like you could have put the wrestling to the back foot for a little bit. He's had, enough time where I think he can sort it out, and he's a good enough defensive wrestler, and even, showed off some offensive wrestling in his Colby Covington fight, where I think, he could give Sean Brady a lot of problems. And if Brady struggles to take him down, let's not mince words here. Leon is class on the feet. He's such a technical, sharp striker. The way he just pokes you with that front kick, teep kicks, and, his boxing is on point. Sharp, sharp, sharp. He's as sharp of a striker as you can get. Just doesn't carry that pop that I think may put Brady on his back foot. So I feel pressure constant from Sean Brady in this fight, which is why I think the odds make a little bit more sense. Like, if Leon can't shake Brady off of his legs, even if it does go to decision, control time, we've seen takeover rounds. But it feels like a big spot. It feels like a big, big spot for the welterweight division, which is wild right now. I've said it multiple times. You know how I feel about the welterweight division. It's the division to watch this year. They just have so many contenders on the rise right now that I think it's going to be really, really fun. Leon said that if he wins this fight, it was, told to him, next shot at the title. With the Shavkat injury and everything, I don't know how exact that is. Could just be Leon's next fight is for the title, not necessarily Bilal or Jack Della Maddalena, whoever the next champion's next fight. But I don't necessarily think I believe the same for Sean Brady, just with the contenders they have, unless he does something really, really special here. Like, he needs that monumental win. Like I kind of went through with the other guys, like Jack Della Maddalena and Gilbert Burns. I guess he got the Gilbert Burns win, but am I wrong in thinking it doesn't mean as much in the Apex? It's the fight feel, the fan excitement. He 50-45 Gilbert Burns, and it wasn't a boring fight, but the mix of wrestling and Apex, it didn't have that wow factor to it. I mean, that's no fault of Sean Brady. He did what he had to do and got out. But, when I said Gilbert and Jack Della Maddalena and then just remembered that Sean Brady's last win was against Gilbert too, I was like, the Apex, it just doesn't mean as much. It's plain and simple. It doesn't mean as much as doing it in front of a crowd and hearing that pop, getting the cheers or the boos. It's a real litmus test for how exciting it was. You never know how exciting something is in the Apex. Maybe those wrestling exchanges make the crowd pop. There was throws, there was scrambles. It was an exciting fight. But it all just felt, level because of the Apex factor of it. But yeah, I see that pressure coming from Sean Brady. I think if Leon can't halt him with some of that pressure, something big to kind of make him backstep, Brady's going to be in his face. That doesn't mean I think Leon's going to lose. I mean, he's good at using his long weapons to kind of hold wrestlers at bay. And I don't know. I still don't really know who I'd pick for this fight. I've gone so back and forth. It was Leon, then Sean, and then Sean, and then Leon. I think as I'm talking right now, I think I'm back on Sean. And I wasn't. I wasn't. He also has the baby bump in his favor. Just had a baby, so that, when it comes to betting, betting on a guy that just had his baby is usually a lock. I'm not saying it's a lock, but I'm saying he's got the baby bump in his corner. So that's big for the boy, big for the program. Remember that when you're throwing your bet. At least throw a sprinkle. You got to sprinkle for a baby. It's always a step up. Next up, Jan Blachowicz, Carlos Oberg, another big spot for the division. I mean, light heavyweight is looking for contenders right now. We assume maybe Alex Pereira is getting the rematch. Obviously, nothing's official. Heavyweight's still live as long as John Jones and Tom Aspinall aren't signed. I feel like heavyweight's still live, but we have Yuri waiting in the wings, coming off of a big win over Jamal Hill. But it'd be nice to set up, if one of these guys can shock the world, especially Carlos Oberg here, if he can really put a stamp on Jan Blachowicz, I think he's back into business. But Jan Blachowicz, in the same turn, has history with Magomed. They fought to a draw the first time these guys fought for a belt. Well, not Jan. He had already been champ. But the last time they fought, I guess is a better way to say it, they fought to a draw. So big spot here. Carlos Oberg coming out of City Kickboxing, same camp as Israel Adesanya. I was really making a play. I don't know if you remember these, but I was really making a play for Carlos Oberg, Alex Pereira, just because the City Kickboxing, of course, Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira history, I thought would have been a pretty special story. It still could be if Alex can regain his belt. But we need Carlos Oberg to make a statement. Plain and simple. I mean, last fight out, he went to a decision with Nikita Krylov, and Volkan Ozdemir. And it was, it was a fine fight, but nothing to really write home about. Before that, it was like an 11-second knockout over Alonzo Menafield. So, truthfully, pretty big step up for Carlos Oberg, although Jan Blachowicz has been out for, got to be 3 years now, right? 2 years. Last fight was against Alex Pereira in Alex Pereira's light heavyweight debut. That was 4 title defenses ago. That was July 28th of 2023. So we're coming up on, we haven't even hit 2 years, actually. That's how fast Alex Pereira did his thing. Is that Jan Blachowicz fight was only a year and a half ago. Almost 2 years. Wow. Crazy. So we'll see how he looks. He's an older fella. I mean, Jan's, I think, 41, 40, something like that. An older guy. Carlos Oberg is not. Just kind of rising up the ranks. He's probably... I hate just looking at this UFC schedule thing because they don't give me their ages, and it really throws me off. I'm guessing at ages. But I would say 31, maybe. Don't quote. Big spot for the boys there. We have Carlos Oberg at a minus 225 favorite right now. I like Carlos. So I'm going to ride with the boy. Gunnar Nelson, Kevin Holland on this fight. Can we throw some appreciation on Kevin Holland's name real quick? I know his last fight out, he kind of got punked by Rainier Day Ritter, but I mean, this guy, I think I just looked at it. Since 2020, he's fought 18 times. This will be his 19th fight. Joined the UFC in 2020. He's averaging like 4.5 fights a year. He just fought. That Rainier Day Ritter fight was, what, 310? Is that what that was on? January 18th. Sounds like 310. I mean, he fought 2 months ago, and he's back at it. Quick fight. Didn't get hurt, got subbed. But, I mean, this guy is a freaking animal. Kevin Holland back at it against Gunnar Nelson, who, complete opposite, fights once, hasn't fought in like 2 years, or, seems to fight once a year. Kevin, and actually is the Gunnar Nelson, speak of the devil, is the favorite in that fight, believe it or not. I think Kevin Holland's alive at plus 124. I think he's alive. Rainier Ritter made pretty quick work with a sub, but Kevin Holland is efficient on the ground. He's got a good handful. He's got 8 subs himself. 13 first-round finishes, 14 wins by knockout. So I think he's a live dog, especially with the inactivity of Gunnar. He's getting up there in age. Molly McCann on this fight. You got to have Molly McCann in any England card. Love that. Chris Duncan, Jordan Vucinic. Jordan Vucinic is like, got his whole body blacked out. I think he's pretty young. Yeah, 1 fight in the UFC. Lost to Garam Kutsalatse. Who, is he on this card? I feel like I've been seeing his face a lot. Gram's got to be on this card. Yeah, Gram is the curtain jerker out of Georgia. Another one. So I don't know who's holding up the spot there. If Chris Duncan's a big enough star to make it on the main card, or if they just really love. I guess Jordan's an English fighter, so maybe that's got something to do with it. And Nathaniel Wood, Morgan Charrier, that's a great fight. Nathaniel Wood, also English native. Morgan Charrier's French. Nathaniel Wood's coming off of a big win over Daniel Pineda in a really fun fight. I mean, brings the war, kind of hit or miss. You know, 1-1 loss. One kind of feels like how he goes. But's got wins over the likes of Andre Feely, Charles Jourdain. So should be a banger. Morgan Charrier, I think he's only had 3 fights. Last one being in France. Won by a second round KO. Lost a split decision and then won his debut by KO. Should be a banger. Nathaniel Wood brings the pressure, brings the fire. Jai Herbert, Chris Padilla, Lenore Kavanaugh, Felipe Dos Santos. Lenore's another big one, kind of English prospect that's making a second fight in the UFC. Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin. This could be big for the heavyweight division, low-key. You know, I don't necessarily see Marcin rising up the ranks like that, especially with how Tom Aspinall handled him. I mean, what was it? A minute and 13-second knockout. But Mick Parkin working up the ranks. Let's see, first round KO, third round decision, third round decision, third round decision. So like to see him stack up some more KOs on the rise to the top, but he's on a 4-fight win streak. In the heavyweight division, you're always 1 or 2 fights away from being in title contention, let's be honest about it. Marcin is 8 right now, so Mick Parkin would be fighting for, and Mick is 13, so he'd be fighting up the ranks here. Christian Leroy Duncan, Andre Pulia, Shauna Bannon, like her, I think she's hot, out of Ireland, so big fan. Nathan Fletcher, I fucking love me some Nathan Fletcher. I'm a Nathan Fletcher stan. I'll put that on record. Riding Nathan Fletcher, minus 166 favorite here. Facing off against Kulon Longhorn, who fought another one of my favorites, Jake Hadley, his last time out. Big, kind of stocky Irish boy, throws some overhands, but he's just got that box body, kind of Marvin Vettori style body. Comes forward, chucks hands. I'm not too worried about it. Nathan Fletcher's nasty. Don't sleep on the kid. Out of the same gym as Paddy Pimblett. Fought on Tough. That's how I know of him. Last season to Tough and fucks with the kid. So, that's UFC London. We're riding, fellas. Good card. I think it's a pretty solid card. You know, Leon Edwards, Sean Brady, big implications. Jan Blachowicz, Carlos Oberg, big implications. After that, we're just kind of parsing through some young up-and-comers, a lot of English fighters or European fighters. But it's always a good time in London. What time do we start? Main card starts at 4 p.m. Eastern, which is where I'm at right now. So 3 p.m. for the Central Standard Time. Prelims start at 1, which is nice. This thing's going to be done by probably 6 o'clock, which kind of sucks, actually, because I have to work. But you know I'm watching. No spoilers. Hey, if you're watching this, no spoilers, because there's a chance I'm not watching. Truth be told, there's a chance I'm not watching, and I'll watch it later. No spoilers. You heard? Cool. UFC London. I like it. I like it a lot. Ilia Topuria, since moving into the lightweight division, it's kind of been a mess. Obviously, we're waiting for a fight announcement. We were kind of hoping we got it with the announcement of him moving up or soon thereafter. Now we're just in speculation zone where it feels like everybody's just saying no to Ilia Topuria right now. Islam, although he didn't say it himself, I believe it was somebody from his team said, or maybe somebody from his team said that Islam said, or maybe it was just somebody from his team. I didn't do that much research, I'll be honest with you. Said that Islam thinks that Ilia needs to prove himself at 155, like he needs to fight a couple contenders before he gives him the shot. We also have Charles Oliveira saying he's not going to fight Ilia unless it's for a belt. He has no interest in taking a contender fight against Ilia Topuria. And I don't really get Islam's stance. I think clear fight to make, the biggest fight to make, the biggest money fight you can make. Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, knockouts back-to-back, earns you a title shot at whatever weight division you want to be at. He could fight at 185 right now, and it earns him a title shot. It just does. It just does. Those are two legends of the game. Max, notoriously hard to put out. Alexander Volkanovski, a long reigning featherweight champion before being knocked out by Ilia Topuria. He earned his shot. Earned his shot. I don't think Islam has any ground to stand on, and truthfully, I don't think Islam cares. If there's one thing that Islam is always stuck to, is next up, who gives a shit? I think Dana White has a quote on his wall of Islam. Let me find that real quick, because it's making my point a little bit better. I just remember this Islam quote on UFC gym wall. What was it? Dana White is reportedly putting Islam Makhachev's quote, when the gladiator comes to the arena, he never chooses the opponent, on the wall of the UFC gym. That's on the wall of the UFC gym. When a gladiator comes to the arena, he never chooses the opponent. And you've never seen Islam complain about an opponent. Was he sick of fighting featherweight Volkanovski? 100%. But did he complain when he got short notice replacement on Arman Tsarukyan for Renato Moicano? No. Fight went on. That was a day's notice. So Islam, as game as they come, I think that's his team just kind of posturing, seeing what else they can get. But there is no one. I mean, if you're not going to give Arman Tsarukyan the shot, and you're going to make him fight again, he's got to fight Charles or Gaethje. You know, truth of the matter, just has to. I understand Charles's position a little bit more, saying, let me actually, my phone's right there. I took a picture of it, but my phone's there. He basically said, I'm not fighting Ilia unless it's for the belt. I understand that position. He's not saying I won't fight Ilia. He's like, my next fight, I want it to be for the belt. That's what he's saying in his quote. My next fight, I want it to be for the belt. He didn't say, I'm not fighting Ilia. He said, if I'm fighting Ilia, it's going to be for the belt. It's not even saying that. He's basically putting Ilia in front of him, to be 100% honest with you. He's like, Ilia needs to fight for the belt, and then I'll fight Ilia. The only other one that I kind of have a problem with, and this one's on the side of Ilia Topuria, is I've heard that he doesn't want to fight Arman Tsarukyan because they're both from Georgia. You can't do that. Plain and simple, you can't do that. If you're going to move up into the light heavyweight division and ask for a title shot, you can't say you're not going to fight Arman Tsarukyan, because he is one of the most clear contenders right now. And I don't care if you are blood brothers. You're either, I mean, you're fucking over Arman, to be 100% honest with you, or you're fucking over yourself if you don't get that immediate shot. If you have to fight a Charles or a Gaethje before you fight Ilia and Arman does get the shot, then you're fucking yourself. You two have to be willing to fight, or else you shouldn't have moved up. Plain and simple. Because one of you is getting fucked over bad. But I just hope we get something announced for Ilia. I hope that's coming soon, because it's hard to wait. I mean, speak of stars, I told you Islam's a star. Ilia's a star too. Doesn't matter who he's fighting. Charles is a star. Like, the whole top of the lightweight division, outside of probably Arman Tsarukyan, is a certified star. Could be Gaethje, could be Poirier, could be Holloway too. I don't think we're going to do that, but stars. That top five full of stars. Could be Paddy Pimblett coming off of a big win of Michael Chandler. That, if this happens the way Paddy Pimblett wants it to happen, God, that build-up's going to be so fucking good. Incredible. But you got to get through Michael Chandler first. Big ass for Paddy Pimblett. You know I'm going to ride for the boy too. You got to. I love both of them. I love Chandler too. It's going to be fun. Fuck it. We're talking about Ilia right now. You just got me jacked about Paddy Ilia. Manifestation, dog. We got to put that into play, because that build-up would be fantastic. And also, you just assume Paddy at that point's fighting for a belt. Ilia Paddy is probably one of the biggest fights in the UFC right now. Tom, John, Ilia, Islam, Ilia Paddy. What else would be a massive fucking fight? Dricus Hamzat, you assume that's getting made. I feel like that's a rung below massive. It's a huge fight, Hamzat fighting for the belt, but yeah, Ilia Paddy. giant fucking fight. Next in line, let's talk about Alex Pereira, because like I said, I literally thought of this like a second before turning on the camera, but I think there's a reasonable chance that Alex Pereira has one fight left. I mean, you think about it, if he fights the rematch with Magomed Ankalaev and loses, what do you do? What do you do? Like, you can't really put him back in line because he's beat everybody. I mean, you still have, like, I mean, if we're just looking at the light heavyweight rankings, let's just assume that heavyweight's out of the picture right now. Can we do that for a second? Let's just say he's staying at light heavyweight, loses a rematch to Magomed Ankalaev. Who's he fighting? He's beat Yuri Prochazka twice. He's beat Jan Blachowicz. He's beat Jamal Hill. The fight would be probably Carlos Ulberg. The other two options in the top range would be Rakic or Nikita Krylov. Not super interested in either of those. But what does a Carlos Ulberg win for him do if he's coming off of 2 losses to Magomed Ankalaev? Because you don't feel like a third chance is coming unless it's razor tight and more exciting than the first one. Assuming he loses in this case scenario. If he wins, you figure shit out. But even then, there's still nobody. I mean, you're hoping for a Carlos Ulberg to really rise at that point. The other option is you go up to heavyweight. And I think you only have one shot up there. You're fighting the winner of Tom, John, or you're fighting Tom for a vacant belt. But then you're not going to fight, I mean, even if you win, what are you going to do? I guess, yeah. Yeah. Thought. You could fight Cyril Gane. Again, that'd be a fantastic fight. I pitched that on the last one. There's some fun fights for him. But it feels like we have 2 left. So just a moment. Remember to cherish Alex Pereira while he's still here, because it's coming to an end. And it's coming pretty quickly. 1 or 2 fights. I mean, if you want him to have, like last year he fought, what, 3-4 times? Like, give me 3 people that Alex Pereira could fight right now. Magomed Ankalaev, Cyril Gane, Tom or John. And it's only one. It's only one here. I think that's how this one works. Because if John loses to Tom, I don't think we see that. If John doesn't fight Tom, I think we see the Tom. Or if Tom wins, I think we could see that. 3 fights max. That's what I'm calling it. 3 fights max, and I think one's going to be at light heavyweight, possibly 2 at heavyweight. That's where I'm at. And that's our show. I don't know what the fuck I was saying there. I told you, we were working through that one. There's some fun fights left for him. I think that's what I just came to the conclusion of, but not many. That's all I got for you. UFC London coming up tomorrow by the time you see this. Remember, early start time. We'll see what happens with Ilia Topuria. I think this whole ducking situation, I think, is kind of a false flag, but I've just been seeing reports on it, so I wanted to talk about it a little bit. And then cherish Alex Pereira. That's it. Peace, love. Like, subscribe. See you next week.